Chapter 6 On Top of the World. For a moment, anyway. After school, Cleo and Josh walked home. Normally, Kaylee would join them, but that day her mom picked her up for some kind of appointment. In the kitchen, Mom was making something again. Bags of ingredients, messy bowls, measuring cups, and eggshells littered the counter. The longevity lollipops hadn't gone over so well. Cleo's had gotten stuck in her throat and practically choked her to death. Mom turned off the mixer and gave them both kisses. How was school, she said. JJ ran in and threw his arms around Cleo's waist. Cleo, it was nice to come home to an adoring fan. She hugged him back and headed for Josh. Mom, guess what? Josh said. Emilio's in my class. He opened the pantry door, scavenging for a snack. That's great. What are you making this time? Cleo eyed the gritty, batter suspiciously. It looked a little too much like something that had been digested once already.
It's okay. We'll just pick up from where you left.
Quinoa. I'm sorry. I know the word quinoa,
I
but
don't think you do know the word.
I know it now. But when I first saw it, I didn't use the word quinoa a lot in my life.
Hold on, don't start. I needed to grab a chair.
Are you just gonna splice this? I don't want to make you splice this a million times. Okay. Well, it's a.
Well, I'm not editing.
Oh, Ethan's editing. I'm sorry, Ethan.
No,
Okay.
screw Ethan.
I'm gonna start a little earlier so it helps him out. What are you making this time? Cleo eyed the gritter. Oh my God, why is gritty making me gritty, not gritty? That's great. What are you making this time? Cleo eyed the gritty batter suspiciously. It looked a little too much like something that had been digested once already. Quinoa cupcakes. Quinoa what? Mom held up a big bag of birdseed. Quinoa. It's a miracle grain, full of protein. You can try one when they're done. No thanks, I'll just have one of these. She grabbed a chocolate chip protein bar from the pantry and peeled back the wrapper. Can I open my avocado stand today? What about homework? Our teacher doesn't believe in giving a lot of homework. Mom eyed her skeptically. Oh, really? I just got a little reading. I can do it in between customers. Okay, but you have to answer my question first. How was school? Fine, except for dumb Jimmy Ryerson asking her questions about her birth mom. She thought she'd gotten over it, but there it was again, making her feel weird, like she didn't belong. I like Mr. Boring. He does seem like a good guy. You've met him? I emailed your teachers last week, just to introduce myself and our family like I do every year. Of course, Cleo wished she wouldn't make such a big deal out of it, but Mom had made educating others about adoption one of her main missions in life. Well, I've got a business to run, Cleo started toward the family room where she stashed all her business stuff. You know where to find me. Outside, the avocados on the ground were all half eaten. Barkley. He had ruined $10 worth of product. The remaining avocados were high up in the branches. She got the ladder from their detached garage and set it up next to a tree. She had just climbed to the top when their neighbor across the street, Mrs. Chu, came outside in gardening gloves. Miss Chu waved her little shovel in the air. Cleo, that's too high. You're going to hurt yourself. Ni hao, Mrs. Chu. This summer, Cleo had asked Mrs. Chu to teach her Mandarin Chinese, the future language of business people everywhere. Want to buy some avocados today? Cleo raised an avocado to show Mrs. Chu. The ladder wobbled. Her heart did a double flip, but she kept her cool. Cleo's awesome avocados was back in business. Just get down from there, she said. I'll get you the money. How much? $1 each. Cleo had never done a business transaction from this far away.
My bad.
You're good.
Okay. Just go back to the top of whatever paragraph we're at.
Yeah. $1 each. Cleo had never done a business transaction from this far away. Or from a ladder. Yeah. Sorry, Ethan.
They just already shut up.
All right, I'll reread that one again. All right. $1 each. Cleo had never done a business transaction from this far away, or from a ladder. But so what? A sale was a sale. I pay the same at the store. What happened to the blowout sale? Miss Chu never accepted full price. That was yesterday, but for you, I'll make it $3. Deal? Deal. Now you get down before you break your neck. Cleo was going to get down. Really, she was. And then she saw the roof. And it was only a step away. A big step, but she knew she could do it. And if she could do it, then she had to do it. It was the law of the universe. She plucked 4 avocados, then hurried down and dragged the ladder closer to the house, which was single story in the front, double story in the back, where they added bedrooms. She climbed the top of the ladder again and pulled herself onto the roof, trying not to make noise. If Mom found her, she would have a cow. Not just a cow, a bull with horns. This was the kind of thing that would have her yelling Cleo's whole entire name to the whole entire neighborhood. Cleopatra Lenore Oliver, get down from here right now. But she didn't want to get down. She was a Capricorn after all, part mountain goat according to fortune, always climbing. Never satisfied until they reached the top. Cleo scrambled up to the short slope to the pointy part in the middle. She looked down of the roof of Mrs. Jean's chicken coop. Gloria, Alice, and Susan B. pecked and scratched in the dirt yard. Big Betty was probably chilling out in the coop. Miss Jean had paid Cleo to chicken sit a few times. Easy money. On the other side of Mrs. Jean's was the Williamsons. Cleo giggled at the underwear drying on a line in their big backyard. It looked big enough to fit a giant panda. Beyond the Williamses' single story was Kaylee's palace of a house. It was pink, which Kaylee thought was horrible, but Cleo thought it was a splendorless with red Spanish tiles on the roof and a side balcony just right for sipping their tangerine tonic, which they had made from Ortega's tangerine trees and sold earlier in the summer. The Ortega's house stood on their street like a flamingo in a flock of pigeons. It was exactly the kind of house Cleo would like to live in. Kaylee's bedroom window was open. Should she yell? She might get caught. But on the other hand, if her best friend was home, she would see her on top of their house. She cupped her hands around her mouth. Kaylee! Kaylee's gauzy blue curtains fluttered in her window. Kaylee! Kaylee didn't appear, but crouching there on the pinnacle of the roof, Cleo suddenly felt on top of the world. She put her feet on the either side of the peak and stood straight up. Wow, this view was amazing. She could see all the way to Abaddon High School, where Dad taught computers and history. Dull, meaningless history. It was much more important to look ahead to the future. And she knew what future held for her. More business. Because she was an entrepreneur, just like Fortune. Probably like lots of people in their birth family. An idea struck her so hard it practically knocked her from the perch. She would start a business at school. She could see it all now. Her desk would become an executive office, the nerve center of Cleopatra Enterprises, Inc. Kaylee would be her COO, Chief Operating Officer, since she was the most organized person on the planet. Just then, the sky exploded with noise and the whoosh of beating wings. 100 wild parrots. She wasn't exaggerating, really, even though she had been known to on occasion. Landed in the comfort trees that towered over her house. They had been there before. They came and went around the neighborhood, a big, noisy, extended bird family. The fact that they had chosen to land right there at that very moment was a great thought. It was a great sign. She just knew it was. The birds squawked and flopped their wings as if they were cheering and clapping just for her. Barkley ran outside, barking and jumping upon one of the giant trees. Josh ran after him. Cleo ducked. Mom, come here. Cleo's on the roof. Corn dogs and Costco. Miss Chu came out from her front porch. She started waving and shouting too. Between the parrots screeching, Barkley barking, Josh tattling, and Mrs. Chu yelling, the corner of their street was louder than the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It was almost loud enough to drown out the sound of Mom yelling her whole entire name to the whole entire neighborhood. And that was chapter 6.